collegiate standpoint, but also from high school, because we have a lot of high school coaches here. And officially, we've got the whole thing covered. So we won't waste any more time. We'll get right to it. I want to start by introducing our coaches. And I didn't have a chance to speak to all of you, but I'm looking forward to all of you. And congratulate you on your success you're having at your universities, and certainly wishing you more in the future. We'll start off with Coach Sadie Washington. He's an assistant coach at Michigan State University. He finally came around. Took a while. Sadie's dad was a Michigan State great back in the 60s. Sam Washington, fantastic player. And I met their dad when I was a freshman at Michigan State in 1975. And it's a lot different then than it is now. You know what my NIL contract consisted of? My dad gave it to me. A little stereo system. All in one, compact, record player, radio, tape player, all in one. And a couple of speakers. And we had to sneak that by with us. A lot different than that. But welcome, Sadie. Glad to have you here. Mike Boynton, an assistant coach for the Michigan University Wolverines. Travis Lewis, head coach of the Central State University of Horatio. All right. Travis Lewis, head coach. And then Zach Spiker, the head coach for the Dragons, Drexel University. And another Spartan, Mark Montgomery, who's the head coach at the University of Detroit University. He was a fantastic player for Michigan State in the late 80s, early 90s. Won a couple of Big Ten championships. Should have gotten to a Final Four, got cheated out of it, but maybe he'll get there with the Titans. At least that's what we're hoping. All right, welcome, gentlemen. So, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to give each one of you about a minute and a half to open the panel. And I'd like you to talk about, in that minute and a half, the things that you're most pleased with at your school and in college basketball as a whole, in general. And perhaps the one that you'd like to see change. I imagine some of this is going to overlap. We're probably all thinking and feeling some of the same stuff. Let's hear it. Coach Washington, we'll start with you.
All right, good evening, everyone. First of all, Horatio, thank you for the invite. Known about this event for many, many years and helped a few of my head coaches be a part of it. So to finally be a part of it is big for me. But I would say, just the authenticity of the game, giving young people an opportunity to display their talents at a higher level is still something that at the core of what we're trying to do in helping young people be the best versions of themselves. Obviously, the academic institutions that we're all part of, giving them the vision and the necessary skills and resources to not only help themselves now and their families now, but also in the future. And then ultimately, right, we're giving them the platform to perform on some of the biggest stages in the world, and just being a part of that growth in their development as young men. In terms of where, the game, I don't want to say things we're most disappointed of, but hopefully, not only the young people, the parents, can stay fixated on the big picture, right, of why they're here and the opportunities that come that far exceed any of the playing that goes on the court. So, you know, as long as the adults in the room can remain being the adults in the room and provide the proper guardrails for our young people to excel and be their best versions, I think the game is in good hands.
Coach Montgomery.
Boy, that minute, you know, you can tell he's been in the Israel meeting because he carried on. I'll figure out the sit between Saudi and Mike. I guess people don't know about the S, the Spartan head, so I didn't want them to.
Messy.
But also other coaches in the room. I know a lot of coaches in this room that they you know, the back supporting Detroit Mercy, getting you guys back at games, getting you back into the gym, bringing your student athletes, watching practices. That's huge, and that needs to hopefully continue. And but some of the things that Saudi said, I'm more thankful for the opportunity to get back to be a head coach, because I know I can change a lot of different lives, not just student athletes, but, you know, starting with staff. And, you know, I saw my staff members here, Coach Stone and Colin, but when you're in the head seat, you get to touch, you know, and give opportunities to young, inspiring coaches and older coaches who have a chance to hopefully one day have their programs. I think a lot of things that Saudi said is true. We're still given the opportunity to get education, and that's the main thing. But still, I think another thing is development. We are still developing student athletes, not just in the classroom, but definitely on the court and in the community. That's a big part of our job. Some of the disappointing things, I think some guys are misguided on the transfer portal, because when the portal opens and you have thousands of student athletes in that portal and they have nowhere to go, that's a problem. But we get into that, but definitely thanks for having me.
Coach Lewis.
First, I want to thank Horatio, TJ for connecting us. Feel like home. Played football and basketball at Eastern Michigan. My roommates from Linwood, so to be sitting on stage in Detroit was my first major speaking engagement as a head coach. Man, I wouldn't want it to be anywhere else. So extremely grateful for that. I was growing up, I seen Saudi at Western Michigan. I was at Eastern, I played against Coach. My first Power 5 with Coach Gates against Coach here. So, man, a lot of connections, and that's what I'm pleased about with our game now, right? It continues to help you grow and connect in a way that other things in life couldn't with a degree. Now that you have the NIL deal, when I played, we just waited for GameStop and what our rating was in a football game or a basketball game, right? And then when I graduated, there was this way of suing EA Sports so we could get a small check. So when I get my $4,200 check from my rating being an 86 on the game, and now I look at these guys talk about millions of dollars that they get per season, it's like, man, look at that growth, right? the growth is so far-fetched where you can't imagine how everyone can be involved if it's, man, teaching these guys how to understand taxes, or teaching these guys how to invest their money, or having agents as a freshman or senior in high school to learn how to manage money. Like, that's what the game and this environment has allowed us to do. The misfortune and the things that are frustrating about it is the lack of knowledge. Right? I related back to COVID. Man, we didn't even get through a whole cycle of COVID before we decided to start giving out shots to say it could be cured. And we haven't seen it fall, winter, spring, summer. So, man, with it being so new, but moving so fast, you would like to see something put in place to educate those who are making these decisions, the parents, the field agents, the people in the neighborhood, right? Because the advice that guys are getting is so bad at times because people are just ignorant to what's going on. That's why the transfer portal becomes higher than what it is. I know specifically for me, I had guys that I made my own because of the time I got hired at my institution. And they said, Coach, you want to go to the portal? And this is their first time ever being successful. And I said, hey, if you go, may the portal be with you. That allows me an opportunity to bring in a better time. But had they been given the right education, they may have made better decisions.
Your thoughts and concerns, Horatio?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything taking place in Philadelphia that isn't taking place right here in Detroit. It's taking place everywhere. It's affecting college and the high school game and everybody in between that's willing to support these young student athletes. And it's an honor to be here, to have been invited here by Coach Rickman, and to spend some time on side of Wednesday. I appreciate the kind of chance to be the one outsider to share maybe a different perspective from a different region of the country, but you're going to be disappointed. It's the same story. I think there's good and bad with it, right? What's frustrating is our roster turns over more in 1 year than we may have done in 4 years the other times, right? So that can be really difficult for coaches to fill out the roster. But also, that's that many more people you get to touch someone's life, and you get that amount of time with them. Whether they stay the whole time or not, you can't always control that. But I think whether we're in college or high school, we've chosen to be a part of the coaching profession, and we should be pouring ourselves into our guys every day. Be as present as you can, and if another group shows up, the guys leave, and you've got to turn the roster over. You know, Coach Campy taught me this many years ago. You got to adapt to die, right? No one can die. You're going to adapt, figure out, have a great school to give someone an opportunity for them to get a good degree, play in a high level in our league, and then go from there. Give them the opportunity to be successful. But I think it's both. I think there's some frustrating things, but also some really positive things that have come out of the same situation. And I'm hopeful we can get through what seems to be the most insane time to be coaching and recruiting. It doesn't matter what level or where you are. Right, by the way, Coach, at 86 rated right now, you're going to be in a good spot. Yeah, but hopefully we can get on the other side. And what was important 25 years ago, 30 years ago, needs to be important 25 years and 30 years from now. And that's giving young people the opportunity to play, find success, and grow with the program and be successful. I already went over my minute, sorry.
That's okay. Coach Boynton, you're out there on the road, you're to the challenges that you face now with some of these new practices and things in place. Can you talk about those for us?
Yeah, so Horatio, again, appreciate you guys. Congrats on all the honorees. I feel very, very grateful to be up here, most of these guys. But the landscape of college basketball has changed drastically from the first time that I was involved with it as an 18-year-old freshman at the University of South Carolina. You know, getting the education for free was the biggest deal to me, and not having to have my parents worry about trying to put me through college when we probably wouldn't have been able to afford it. And so I still have a great sense of value for what educational opportunities are and how life-changing they can be. And I've recruited and coached guys at very many levels of this game, including probably your favorite Piston right now. But, you know, the recruit King Cunningham in 2016 would have been impossible in 2024 as the head coach of Oklahoma State. First of all, we didn't have any money, and obviously he was the best player in the country, so we wouldn't have even been in the conversation. But it was still about relationships at that time. And this thing has turned so much, not that everybody shouldn't be able to benefit and make money, but everything can't be transactional because that doesn't last forever. Right? Relationships last forever. You know, things become so transactional that we've lost the relationships within the business. And I think that's something we still try to hold on to, although we got to be real about what it is. You know, we signed a kid one day, literally a kid who played his position, next day left. And that's the reality that you deal with in college athletics now. None of us are immune to it. Like many of them have said, we have to adjust because it's the way we make a living. But it's disappointing that we're not able to teach these kids lessons through challenging moments because they don't stick around for the challenging moments. And it's not, I don't put this on the kids. It's mostly their families who are now seeing this as a financial opportunity for themselves. There are kids retiring their parents as 18, 19-year-old kids. And that, I don't ever remember that being a real conversation until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So I actually feel bad for the kids. On one hand,
that they're losing out on understanding the true value of relationship and how your relationship with your head coach can impact the rest of your life the way differently. And why I'm still close to both of the guys that I played for in college. But the relationship with your teammates that you stick around for 4 years with, and you tell stories 20 years later, your kids become friends, and they want to go to the same schools, and all those things are kind of just going away. And, you know, like I said, we all will adjust. It's a different way to approach it. We'll still find a way to be successful within this system. But the real losers in this will be the kids who don't understand how to stand in the fight and get to the next day and look a guy in the face and say, I got your back.
So there were a couple of questions that I wanted to just throw out for discussion amongst yourselves. And the first one has to do with your style of coaching, the way in which you choose to motivate, reprimand, punish, whatever is necessary when you're dealing with 18 and 22-year-olds. How do you navigate that path now when you have a youngster who's making the kind of money that you just talked about? And perspective, thing like me. You know, I played for Jeff Coach at Michigan State, as did Mark Montgomery. And it was his way or the highway. Am I right?
Summed it up pretty good.
Yeah. However, having said that, I played for him all over again. I mean, he's a great coach. But he holds accountable. You had to do more than just perform on the basketball court. You also had to perform in the classroom. Otherwise, you wouldn't get on the basketball court. He made sure of that. So when you talk about the landscape now, how does it impact the way you coach? And you have to really augment and change your style, and do you feel compromised if that's the case? Open the mouth.
Well, I'll just say, this is still new territory for us. I can just speak for myself. I just have to be me, right? Like it hasn't caused me to change who I am because I didn't get to this level by being fake, right? Like kids are still kids. They still want to learn. They still want somebody to hold them accountable. And no matter how much money they make and how much pushback, a lot of times, even like our own kids, they can recognize the authenticity of somebody who really cares about it, right? And so, yeah, there's a high demand. I mean, mommy knows, like you have to hold them accountable. Otherwise, they will find ways to shortcut this. So, you know, they want to be their best versions, and they're trying to. After 19 years, I think I've seen and been around enough guys and helped guys develop into being pros and whatnot. So there is still a genuine thirst for that. The frustrating part is when they leave prematurely. And we had a meeting with a young man not too long ago. It's like, man, he didn't finish the work, right? Like, that's important to me. That's important to our staff. When you invest your time, invest your resources into someone watching film, getting out on the court, to see them leave prematurely, it used to just be to the NBA. But now it's to another school, in the league or out of the league, that becomes frustrating. But I think at the core of who we are, of being all pretty successful in what we do, we got there because we were just real and honest with people. And I'll finish by this. Hey, what I've learned is you gotta enjoy the team that you have today, right? Because it could all change months from now or weeks from now. And so I just try to really embrace the kids that we have today, bring a lot of enthusiasm to each day, and they feel it, and they'll give it back to you.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I would echo some of the things you said that I remember going through interviews and everyone thought that they were getting Tom Izzo. I said, no, I'm not Tom Izzo, I'm Mark Montgomery. And it's a lot of ways to skin it, not to skin it the way I know. That starts with, as Coach said there, with the relationship, but it's some open communication. Now, everything is not debatable. You know, the platforms that the student athletes have now, they want to debate on different things. The film don't lie. And then if something's not right, we need to sit down and talk about it. We're not gonna run the mom, dad, AAU coach, high school coach. They done it their way, you're here, we're trying to be successful at this level. So you have to be real, you have to figure out yourself. I think it's a lot of ways you can win, a lot of ways you can lose, but if you don't have open communication, with especially these youngsters nowadays, and if they see or feel fake, it's not gonna work. But I go back to, again, Jed coached us hard. I think most student athletes, they want to be coached hard, but at the same time, they want you to listen to them sometimes too. A good coach can listen and find out different things. Jed was a little older. He wasn't into listening. He was going to do it this way, which was fine and worked for him, but now it's 2025, and these student athletes do have a voice, but we're still going to do it the right way, get after it, roll up our sleeves, and go to work. And if things don't work out, let's sit down and talk about it. That's all I try to address.
We're a relationship-driven program, right? A lot of the way I built the philosophy, a lot of the way that I built the philosophy has been through personal experiences, right? Man, my mom had me at 15. I don't know my pops. Like, I'm not supposed to be on this platform. When I went through my interview process, I told him, man, I got the perfect excuse to be dead or in jail. Right? I just was lucky to have an opportunity that sports changed my life. And that happened with coaches, that happened with mentors, that happened with strong men around me to build me to the man that I was. So when I got into coaching, it was like, hey, I got into it because I wanted to truly give back. Right? I thought I was going to the NBA or the NFL. So when I got my first middle school teaching check, it was $850. I'm like, man, this ain't really what they told me college degrees were. Right? My grandma would say, your college degree changed your life. That wasn't life-changing. Right? So what that taught me, though, like her saying that, taught me the importance of transparency. So everything that we do in our program is transparent. One, we say discipline is love. No matter how much money you want to make it, you want discipline. People want to have structure. Right? And then we, as a coaching staff, and my coaches are here, and our turnaround that we had this year versus what our program has been in the past is complete contribute to them, is how you spell love. We spell love T-I-M-E. So now that I've identified those things, we then go and we put a system in place. Before every practice, we talk about the practice. This is what we're gonna do, because when I was lifting in college, we just had to guess what's next. Well, that didn't allow me to get the most out of that workout because I was worried about what was coming up instead of being locked into my current moment. So we'll go through and we'll talk about the practice. Before the season starts, we have a player development meeting with every player on our team. And I put their strengths on the board, I put their weaknesses on the board, I'll put their plan of action that they need to do when they're not with us on the board. And they read, they see those things, and then I attach the film to it. Our preseason workouts, we record those things. So if I'm saying that you need to be better at going left, you'll see 3 or 4 of those plays. But then I say, do you agree? And if they say they agree, well, this is the plan, let's move forward. So now when this all come out, you understand why it's coming out because you have a chance to be transparent and communicate about it. But if they say, Coach, I'm a point, I'm not as straightforward, then tell me why. And we go back and forth and we pick the times to have those dialogues. Coach Dennis Gates, when I worked under him, because I had the fortune of being a high school head coach for 9 years before I worked for Coach Gates and then worked for Coach Robinson. He said, man, catch every range. So there are some things that I'm blind and deaf to given this area. And my coaches, we don't provide anything, we provide opportunity. When I get on a Zoom call with a kid, I show them with every Division II kid what their stats was and how much they made from having success at the Division II level. So I'm providing opportunity. You don't want the keys to the car. You ain't trying to drive it. At Central Michigan, I told the kids, shut up, you're here because of the way you act, not because of the way you play. You're gonna mess it bad. And against our Division I's, he averaged 20. So I'm transparent, that which allows me to be tough and provide this.
I think couldn't be said any better, right? It's a transactional industry right now, and everyone's defined by a rating or an amount of money they can get, and that's what they're told, right? There's not a coach up here that's living in a transactional world right now. We're still trying to be transformational. We're trying to pour in to the young men we have access to at this time and make their work as good as it can be, right? And you talked about the different time when you guys played. If coach said run through a brick wall, you'd all line up and probably do it, right? You want to fast forward to this day and age, you tell them run through a brick wall, they're going to get their phone and say, why should I run through a brick wall? And you say, no, that, right? So I think a lot of the same coaching strategies and tactics can be the same, but they also can evolve, but so does a relationship. So if you want to be transformative, you have to be okay and willing to answer the question, why do you want me and why do you need us to run through a brick wall? And if you can articulate that in a caring way, you don't have to be confrontational. You can be carefrontational and talk to them and pour into them. Then you got a good chance of getting something out, whether it's for 6 months or a couple of years. We all know a couple of years. We all know that. But that's just not the reality at this current time.
I say they would run through the brick wall if it was trending on Twitter. Social media drives their entire existence, which is fine. It's just a new age. I mean, nobody in here has a blockbuster car in the wall anymore. Right? We all adjust and evolve in life. There was a time where if you didn't have a blockbuster car, you weren't cool. And so, like, you have to be genuine. You have to be yourself. And to these guys' point, if they know you care about them, then you can be hard on them. But you can't do it the other way. You can't tell them everything you know before they know that you actually give a damn about what's going to happen to them in the future. They don't hold on to that as much as they used to, but there's still some guys out there that you can reach through love and through discipline and through hard times, because there's still guys that are being raised by parents and there's still those values in them. So you still have an opportunity. I still believe in it.
Where does the pursuit of an education, a degree, where does that all play into this now?
It's totally different. I'll be honest, it's out of every 10 recruits that we talk to now, it may come up 2 or 3 times. And it's a sad truth. Because I talk about the transformation and nature of education for me. Neither one of my parents went to college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. So first generation, my kids only know going to college. Not that they have to, but if that's an opportunity out there, we're going to push you to that, because I believe the more you know, the better you can do. And so it's not necessarily about how many books you read, but the experiences you gain through that educational opportunity, the people you meet, the people you come in contact with throughout that opportunity. But it's certainly way down the priority list for certainly recruits and their families, unfortunately. Unfortunately, to be in a place where school is still very much an emphasis.
So is eligibility no longer weighed?
Well, I would say this, there are a lot of negative consequences that we often talk about, but actually one of the things that should help, is helping, the fact that these kids want to stay in school longer to get the money that they're getting now. So as a result of that, they're going to get their degree, right? Instead of leaving prematurely for the hope or the idea of trying to make it to the NBA or coming up short and having to go through the G League or go over to Europe to get paid. So, from that standpoint, this could be a good thing because one, hopefully create some generational wealth, because there's some real money out there, right? And it's causing kids to probably stay in school longer. Not necessarily because initially the idea of wanting to get an education, but that is the result of staying in school for 4 years and 5.
Let me add something on that too. And then NCAA is getting smart about it, because now the rules are going to come out where you can stay for 5, play 5. So that kind of happened because of COVID. But the student athletes, they would take advantage of that, just like Sai said. When you can stay 5, and even though they can bounce around, the tricky thing on that is when you bounce around, you talk to your former players, all credits don't transfer to different schools. So you got to kind of be smart to navigate that. But hopefully that rule goes through now that everyone gets 5 years. And then they're talking about with the junior college student athlete that they get their year back, or those couple of years back. So that's gonna be interesting. I think that'll come out this summer.
So are we heading to a situation where the best teams, the best programs are all going to be generated by the amount of dollars that donors can bring in?
I don't think so. There's big numbers. There's the guys that represent schools here that are really big numbers, right? But I think, I could be wrong here, two of the biggest NIL payrolls from last year's team didn't even make the NCAA tournament. Right? So you still got to evaluate and you still got to identify the talent and the combination of their ability to fit into a program and be a teammate and buy into whatever that culture is, whatever's going on. So just because you have it doesn't mean you spend it wisely, right? And you need to be very smart about how you do it and who you bring into your program when people leave.
I gotta say, my hat goes off to all of you and coaches around the country because it's gotta be difficult. There was a kid who played in the NCAA tournament, in fact, was in the Final Four defensively, and he's from a sports school. You know, continuity is out the window now. And you are starting over each and every year. I guess the question I would have is that, again, when you're trying to take the money out of the equation, okay, for a minute, but when you're trying to sell tradition or you're trying to sell certain highlights for the future to the youngsters now, what do you do? What do you say?
Well, you know, having made the transition from Ann Arbor to East Lansing, I've been able to look behind the veil, right? And Monty knows this, and you know this, Greg. Michigan State is a very, very unique place in that many of the former players and their families are constantly walking through the door, right? That's tradition and pride that many programs talk about, but very few can actually live. And so on the week when we have Brian Week, Brian's been a part of a lot of, when you have cornerstones of your program, Magic Johnson, Steve Smith, Team Cleve, Draymond Green, those type of guys, not just being there, but they are there, putting in the work, sweating with the guys, trying to mentor them, calling them. They have a real relationship with our players. You know, it is a very unique thing. And so, you know, when guys start moving around, that could get lost, right? And, you know, part of our job as coaches is try to create the best student-athlete experience that they can have. And allow our young people to interact with not just those individuals, but individuals, you know, that can help them land jobs or help their kids in the future. That is a hard task, but you know, when you have a situation like we have in East Lansing, it is a real family. Mine can speak more to it. I know he's trying to create that in Detroit, but it's a real authentic thing.
I'll speak to it from a different perspective. Obviously, I don't have the NIL dollars that these dudes got. I pretty much talked about the opportunity. But Coach talked about Blockbuster. As I was growing up and getting into coaching and wanting to coach at this level, you watch press conferences with other coaches talk about culture. I'm gonna build this culture, I'm gonna build this culture, I'm gonna build this culture. Well, culture happens over time, right? Year 3, year 4, you get clarity of what your culture is. But now, because you don't have that opportunity, I had 17 guys to start the roster when I got hired back in August. I got 6 on the roster right now. So our approach has been, we don't teach culture, we teach connectivity. So, man, we got Dr. Joe Carr, he's a sports psychologist, he's been with Georgetown, Florida State, Missouri, been with all these places. He comes in, and before our team ever touched the basketball, we went through the mental health portion and the connectivity portion of Dr. Carr. And I can pull a film session up and show our guys what connectivity looks like. Right? If I pass up Washington the ball and he drops it, you gotta go touch. How we stand in our huddles. Somebody falls on the floor, how fast we get over and get him off the ground. When it happens in a substitution. Right? So now you're getting tangible items to see if we're connected or not. Because when you leave me in 7 months, at least I know I've taught you a skill to take you through life. Right? How do I connect with someone? How do I open the door? Because you used to learn that over time. You learned that from the senior when you were a freshman. Well, you no longer have that. So how can I give you tools to help you be successful? Right? So it's a little different than culture, but it's more so towards just being connected. Because if you look at when Florida won the national championship, the first thing one of the players got up and said, this team be pretty connected. Most connected team wins. So if that's the key to the recipe, how do we put that together?
I've always, even back when I was playing, I've always thought that college players should be, compensated for their role in bringing the many, just the incredible amounts of money that are generated for the NCAA. I've always felt that way, but I never had the idea on how you make that happen, how you go through the ways and to keep it equitable and to keep it fair and all this. I could never figure that out. I figured there were people that were a lot smarter than me that could do that. I'm not so sure that this is the answer. And I appreciate, all of you sharing your thoughts and views on it. I would have to think and hope, though, that it's still being shaped, because I know that this is being sustained.
Great, you get it on that.
You get it right on the head that it's not sustainable. That any professional sports, a lot of the guys on this panel, I got a chance to play in Europe for 4 years, that college, or it doesn't matter if it's a major league baseball, if it's basketball, soccer, everyone has a salary cap, and then it's, you have a contract, and then if you want to get out of that contract, you have to, as all head coaches, and most of us been, that it's a buyout clause. So right now, it's not sustainable, and it's not really fair to coaches, because if I'm at Detroit Mercy, and I want my guys to get to maybe Michigan State, and through my mentorship, our development, our strength and conditioning program, our nutrition program, we have made an investment in every single player. So if it's in the NBA and you go, maybe I get draft picks, or maybe I get some compensation. I think it was a coach at, I don't know if it was Florida A&M, the film coach, it was one of the HBCU coaches, that he had lost half his roster, and they're going to Division I programs. It should be some kind of compensation that if you're exiting me and you go into Michigan State, let's just say, and you're getting $1 million or whatever it is, whatever y'all throwing out now. Heard y'all got big bags, Michigan. Well, throw me a little bag. About 10% of that or something. It has to be some kind of compensation that my blood, sweat, tears, getting up early, mentoring them, it should account for something. I'm all about student, Greg, I'm just like you. I was at Michigan State, they say we're lifting at 6, we're there at 6 in the morning, you got practice, you coming back at night, everybody know the routine. If you was a Division I athlete, we just did it because that's what it took to play, and also we wanted to be professionals. But at the same time now, how it's going, if a kid's at Michigan State, he's at Detroit, he goes to Central State, he goes to Michigan. That's a bad thing in the long run, because when they become professional athletes, it doesn't work like that. But they see the best athletes in the country. So it seems like Paul George now, from the 76ers, well, I want to get traded. Well, you can get traded. Well, they might ship you to, I don't know, Charlotte. or one of the bad teams, but they're gonna get compensated for it. We just have to figure out a different way. And yes, college coaches can leave and go to different universities. We do have buyout clauses. So you gotta think long and hard if you want to get, if you want to pay that fee. What we're trying to do and it's probably at these other universities too, is if we put a contract in front of you, we're obligated to fill that contract. But also, you're obligated to pay that buyout clause if you do want to jump in the portal at the last minute. So it's a lot of different ways. We're guinea pigs right now because it just started. The toughest thing that happened in college basketball is when you can pay them and the transfer portal all happen at one time. So we have to dodge a lot of bullets to figure out what's best. So.
Let's move to the topic of mental health right now. You know, it's always been there. It's just that it's getting the attention and the focus now that it probably should have had many, many years ago. But things can look really, really good on the outside, especially if you got a youngster who's performing and who's earning and who's being able to help his family, so on and so forth. But there's always that idea that, things aren't always the way they look. And the mental health aspect now, coaches do have to deal with that and at least be aware of it. Can you talk to us about what you're doing at your respective schools? What are you doing and what are the programs that are in place right now to help kids who need the extra consideration as it results to, their mental health and constitution?
I'll start that one. I think at Michigan, we obviously have a tremendous reach, the brand, the connectivity of the alumni base. But right there on campus, you have a really, really strong sports psychologists. They're coming in and working with our guys in the offseason, whether it be as a group or one-on-one if they need it. And then a lot of it comes from the pressure they put on themselves or the fact that they are making money and have some guilt associated with them not performing because people are betting on these things to lose money and going at these kids on social media all the time. And it's a real challenge for them as 18, 19, 20-year-olds to deal with that because they're not used to it. So just making sure that you know you guys well enough to see things as they change, whether they be not eating or not sleeping as much as they used to, maybe they're not as trophy in practice as they were last week, and being able to pick up on some of those signs because you spent so much time with those guys, all the time, right? How you show love, getting to know these kids in a way that you can recognize when something's off for them, and then being able to point them into a professional direction, not try to play doctor as a coach, because obviously none of us are qualified to diagnose real issues like that. But we should be good enough to know our players well enough relationally to know when something's off from them, and then obviously being able to point them in the direction that they can find something.
We got a whole mental health, like is a part of what I believe in, coach. And it's unique. Like I said, we got Dr. Joe Carter, who comes in and he kind of he makes you vulnerable, right? Vulnerable is a word of danger, so he allows you to say some trauma that you've been through and let everybody in the room understand that. And for those 3 days, like I become vulnerable, right? I tell my story to our guys. I had 5 guys on my team this past year. Last I got hired on the start, so this 8 months of body of work. I had 5 guys on my team that's lost a parent in the last year, right? Mom or dad. And that was thrown. And I can go in the HBCU world was totally different. It was my first time being involved with an HBCU student, let alone student athlete. I had a kid, it's the team workout early when I first got there. I'm setting discipline. We show up 6 a.m., we run the stairs. And he gets tweaking out on the stairs, talking, what's wrong with it? He come over. Well, I could take you through the story, but it'd be too many ups and downs of the story. It ended with him standing in the middle of campus with his arms wide open, but naked, saying, "Coach, how you got?" I'm like, "He's closed." So I eventually got into my truck. I didn't want to disrupt our campus. It's entirely campus, so I didn't want a firefighter, fire department, police, all that coming. Now the whole campus knows that he was in this situation. So I worked to get him into my truck. We got him to the emergency room. he got put into the mental health department, ward for a while, and now he's home, he was dismissed from school. But what it did, it opened our teens' eyes on the importance of mental health, right? They say something, see something, say something. Well, how do you do that? So we started the season, beginning of every season, when I was a high school coach, we read the book, Urban Byron. I don't want to get y'all going with Ohio State, but Lessons on Leadership. And it tells you how to deal with a team and what leadership looks like. So that creates the dialogue of us how to help. And then we also invited over our mental health department. She comes in every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. We meet every day at 4:30 if it's just for 10 minutes, just so I can see our guys give them a hug and practice in the morning. I jump on them, I put you in the headlock in the morning and give you a hug in the evening. But she'll come every other Wednesday and we'll go through a 30-minute mental health performance, right? Or some type of activity. And that allows our guys to build a sense of connection to now when they are feeling a certain type of way, they won't be hesitant to speak up. A lot of times what I've learned about men is that their pride in the situation to keep themselves killed. D-Rock used to always say his high school coach told him to pass out for the job. And I was talking about the Cardinals, where with this, it's more so you'll make a bad decision before anyone ever knows. So giving them the opportunities to speak out, and that's what the student systematic approach.
Greg, one of the things I would say, and I've encouraged, is to humanize yourself to these young people, right? As coaches, we can be some of the most hypocritical people in the room, if we being honest. Because it's our job to model what we expect of our young people, right? And so I'll be the first to tell a young man who comes into my office, who closes the door, and you know he want to say something, but he can't quite get it out. I say, listen, man, I'm a benefactor of being able to sit down with mental health and speak to somebody about whatever issues that I may have in my life, personal or professional, right? Because a lot of times it's just a reframing of their perspective to get them to see and think about it a different way, for them to move different. And, right, mental health doesn't always have to be a negative thing. I could be having the greatest day, and you just want to share it with somebody who you trust and is willing to listen to you, right, so that you can pour it out into someone else. And so that's why I say one of the best things that we can do, right, is to humanize ourselves to our young people and not be hypocritical, but model what it is that we're really trying to teach.
Gentlemen, what would you like to see from the parents?
Ain't got enough time. Come on, Greg, take those loaded questions here. Take us through.
I know that coaches always have to deal with parents who feel like their children aren't being played right, aren't being utilized right, their playing time isn't where it should be. My kid used to do this, I sent him here because of this, whatever. And this is something that's going on, has been going on all over the country. How do you deal with that? What would you like to see? Coming from parents, especially when you certainly know more than they might know from behind the curtain, and how things are going with your program.
I'll just say, I've served as a head coach for 7 years, and dealing with parents, it gives you a different perspective when you sit in that chair, because they don't realize that you can't just think about their kid all the time, only. And I had a parent tell me that he watched our team more than I did. Like, he believed it. It wasn't true. There's no way. And honestly, that's the delusion of being a parent. And I'm a parent, I got a kid. I hope I'm not that person when my kid's older and has an opportunity to play. But, just taking a step back and understanding that they just love their kid. They want things to go well for their kid, just like any parent does. But I think from their side, what they need to understand is sports has always been a microcosm of life. Always. It's a small window that these kids get to play, and hopefully they're trusting coaches that they believe can help their kids beyond playing sports, beyond playing for them. Because, again, at the end of the day, when sports is over, they're going to have a lot of life to live. I tell guys all the time, by the time you get to us, they've probably played more basketball than they will play. Most of them started 7, 8, 9 years old. They're 18 when they get to us. They're not playing 9 more years of basketball, right? So they're on the back half of this thing, trying to enjoy it, try to trust the guys you're with, try to have fun with the teammates you're around, and then understand when basketball's over, you still don't want to have relationships with the people that you did this with, so that you can transition to the next phase of your life. Because what happens oftentimes is kids leave a situation with a sour taste, and 2 or 3 years later, they want to get into coaching, or they need recommendations for a job. And it's hard to go back to those bridges that you burned down to get back.
I go back, like I said, it's a lot of ways to skin it. I was at Michigan State for 13 years, and I thought this was unique because it wasn't like that when I played there, where I kind of stole Izzo's philosophy where I open every practice up. Doesn't matter to coaches, to parents, to friends, because sometimes we're with them, like Mike was saying, 24/7. So sometimes they rewatch the film. So when you open it up, and then you have open communication with the parents, and then you go sit down and talk to them about it, and then all of a sudden it's a little different. I just remember my days at state where, XYZ's not playing well, my dad comes to practice. And now dad is more upset after he's seen his son walking up and down on the floor, not rebounding, not communicating. So sometimes, the parents, most parents show up and coaches show up on game day. Well, game day is a lot different from they weren't at the walkthrough. They wasn't at the shoot around. They didn't see the lead up to the practices. They don't know if the kid is really locked in. Everybody can say they're locked in, but it's a preparation that it takes that coaches know on staffs that if that player is really locked in and ready to perform. So I keep everything open, and we're not talking about open on communication on playing time. That is determined by the head coach and the staff, but we can talk about why Johnny or Jack is not getting better, and we can push them and find other trigger points. But another thing I've always stolen is that triangle. Mike said it. They've already played whatever 12, 13 years, and now we get them in college. They've already played high school AAU ball, and now we're getting them that first summer. It is a lot of bad habits that we have to try to break in a short amount of time. They're coming from high school, then high school season starts in December. Well, we start basketball practice already in the summer, but we're already in preseason early September. We're in exhibition games in October. We're on live TV. It all counts, November 3rd. So our calendar's moved up. So you try to get the importance and tell the parents the importance of all of that stuff. And I always try to remind parents and coaches of kids that we want to win. Our livelihood is on the line. You become humble real quick when you're at an institution. I was at Northern Illinois for 10 years, and they can't give you your pink card right before Christmas. And now you don't have a job. Trust me, I want to put the best talent, the ones that are willing to work together, on the floor, because that's going to help me, and that's going to help the student athlete. But Mike, you hit it right, that it's not just one kid. We have 13 to 15 guys on scholarship. Our family is already suffering. We know the sport that we pick, but we want the best for every student athlete on the team.
And I start every conversation, you love your son, and I love all your sons. We have a parent meeting at the beginning. What I've learned about parents, and I'll take this from my days in high school at private school, and it costs $15K to go there, is that they just want to be heard, right? That they just want to be heard. So I have an open door policy. As long as you don't talk to me right when you get over with next morning, we can sit down and talk. And then, because everybody knows basketball and not many people know other sports, I use analytics to my advantage, right? So I hear him out. You're right. You're correct. He 0.6, 0.2 points per possession. Right? He's shooting a bunch of brown, silver, and gold shots. Right? So I use our system, I use our analytics to try to get them to try to help them understand. I'm not just watching the game and making decisions. Like, we're not leaving anything to change. So once they're heard, and if you can put some numbers behind the decision making, like I and our staff are never hesitant to tell you why we made a decision. and we take ownership in certain decisions that we made. I mean, we lost a really good game to Miles, and they were ranked early in the year. And I came out, I was the first one to say, man, we took a three with 30 seconds left in the half, and we should have took the last shot. We lost in double overtime. We don't take that three, they don't score before the buzzer going in the halftime, we win the game. I put it on my shoulders. So I take some ownership in it, but I let them, most people just want to be hurt. They just want to have somebody to complain to, and if they can complain to the head coach or values in the system, that makes them feel better. The next 2 weeks will be fine, and then we'll do it all over.
Coach Stryker, there are a lot of coaches in this room, and, you know, aspiring to grow professionally. Can you speak to some of them on how networking and professional development, all those things that play a role in your career, getting to where you are right now, and certainly where you're going to go?
Yeah, absolutely. In 2000, I graduated college, Hickory College. It was a small Division III school in upstate New York, and I wanted to get into coaching. I had an opportunity to go to Norwich University, Division III school up in New England, and my brother said, have you even given a thought to like go to the Final Four, where you can kind of get to meet some people and make some relationships? And I went out there looking to meet one person, and that person introduced me to somebody who he knew, ended up leading to an opportunity to be on staff at Winthrop University down in South Carolina with David Stevenson, Arthur Gradeball, and Greg Marshall as the head coach. So if you don't put yourself out there, my brother made me get in the car, drive partway to West Virginia, get a ride to Indianapolis. I never would have done that. And so I think part of kind of getting outside of your comfort zone and just going some places. This might be an example of me getting out of my comfort zone. I could stay in Philadelphia all day long and see the same guys from Philly Pride, Team Final, Kalo, or I could come up here, because Coach Rick invited me, and spend some time in a different part. So I'm doing what you guys are doing, to go into some different areas that's only an hour plane ride from Philly, as I joke with our recruits, right? To find ways to kind of share ideas from different people. I think you can learn from everybody. And I think if you think you're in a certain spot, like, hey, I was there, I did that. I'm learning from our video coordinator just the other day about a couple of things to do. So I think nonstop, we talk to our players. If you're an expert in karate, you have a black belt. If you're brand new to it, you don't know anything about it, which 100% is me, you're a white belt. That means you're a novice. You're trying to learn something new every day about it. So we literally tell our guys, just put the white belt on every day. We come in here and be ready to learn. We're going to make mistakes. Let's make some new ones each time. You're not going to be perfect. But those are things I learned from having clinics. And by the way, real talk, the Final Four is overrated to meet and get to know people. A better way to do it is go work an elite camp. Help coach out and get some players on campus and spend some time with them. Those camps, when I was at West Point, we would invite coaches up to talk about if we stunk at offensive rebounding, we'd get, we knew UConn wouldn't call us back, but we'd go to Quinnipiac and Tom Moore would send an assistant over, and we'd learn about the best offensive rebounding team in the country. So find the areas that you want to learn about, and then ask people. And we ended up having a great 10-year stretch where we had a clinic, and we invite coaches from all over. I ended up one weekend in the fall up in Michigan, because I was with Coach Beeline for a couple of years at West Virginia, and he had some of his former assistants around. So I think, don't go the traditional places. Be willing to call and go to a practice. You guys are ever in Philadelphia, you can watch our practice and walk 2 blocks and go see Penn's practice. And you got St. Joe Sound Temple around the corner. A lot of high school coaches take a weekend in the fall and kind of run the tour of Philadelphia and practices. But when you do that, stick around after, right? And find time to just ask why they're doing things. And I found that very helpful as a young head coach, as a young assistant, going to places and just asking. So I think when you do that, I think all of us would love to have coaches in practice watching and evaluating.
I like what you said, all of that in terms of using the power of relationships and finding the right mentors and such. But if I were to say, there are young athletes in the room, some whose careers, whose basketball experience is about to end, and now they're looking to make that transition on to some other field. And obviously, there's the trepidation, there's the nervousness, there's, the uncertainty that comes with that. What would you tell a youngster in sitting in that position, so who has the talent, who has the ability, but just doesn't know quite how to start?
I think you gotta lean on, it's not at that moment right there where there's a big issue. Hopefully they're calm because of the year to the time they've spent with you. We try to meet our guys away from the floor, and I think we've all talked about relationships and being transformational. Give them, hey, tell me when you want to meet. Where do you want to meet? Or what kind of food do you want to have? I learned that from 10 miles. Their time, their turf, their tummy. Right? When you sit down and have a conversation, kind of quote where they set the environment and what's going on and when it happens, I think all you have to do is ask, hey, what else? What else can you do? And you can get to that point where you know what their goals are early on and what you're trying to set them up with. So is it bringing people to campus in the summertime so they've got a financial plan, they know what's going on, what they're looking to do. So I don't think that's a stressful time, hopefully as stressful. If you've got that long-term relationship, they know whatever their next decision, they're going to go with a certain agent or they're going to go with a certain team, you're going to be there for them no matter what. And I think just kind of being that supportive, we talk about, you come to Drexel with a foundation that's come from your family and your community, those first couple floors. And then we've got sports site, academic support, strength and conditioning, athletic training, assistant coaches, head coaches, all the different people, marketing, sports information. We just kind of call it, that's like the scaffolding. You're the building. We're just kind of supporting you as you go along in your journey to continue to have those next batch of floors, those next chapters in your life set up. So everybody gets to those decisions. Hopefully, we've done them over time. And it's a cumulative effect. You sit down and just say, are these still the goals? You want to get this degree? You want this opportunity to play? Here's what you got to do if you want to be a pro. And kind of point them in those directions and then let them make the decisions. You can't keep people on your school right now because, Josh Metcalf has a book, Chop Wood, Carry Water, right? And one of the chapters is comparisons to beat the joy. Well, when the guy I know I'm better than leaves the school and goes in the portal and he's getting the bag, everyone's comparing right now. So you talk about education, that's the education you're getting right now. It's not so much in the classroom as it is they're having to make decisions and they got to learn, is that the right move or not? And sometimes you can't convince them to stay. They got to make that decision and maybe fail forward. And you're still going to be there for them because we are. But I don't think it's a certain moment you're there. You're there over time and you're going to be there with them after the fact as well. That's a long answer to a short question, so I apologize.
Greg, let me hit one thing on the young coaches in the room, because I remember it was 25 years ago, I had no clue, got done playing, and how do you get into college coaching? I think it's changed a lot now than when it was before. For myself, I reached back to where I played at those 4 years at Michigan State, made a phone call. Tom Izzo then got on the phone and made 4 or 5 calls. One was I remember like it's yesterday, it was Dan Dockage. He was at Bowling Green, Jay Smith was at Central Michigan, and Greg Campy is still at Oakland. And Oakland wasn't a full-time job, but it was a GA job. If you have to take a GA job when you're young, take that job because it can open a lot of doors. Be able to wear a lot of hats. Sometimes I remember one of our managers took a job with Ed Cooley, a relationship that we kind of built, and he was the GOPO. That's Director of Basketball Operation. It's more that you are getting the bus, getting the planes, doing the training tables, but that job led to now you're on the floor coaching. Now you're showing another different hat, you're working camps. It's no rhyme or reason to get in college coaching. Sometimes it's the connection that you know. It could be a major head coach, it could be a mid-major head coach, but the opportunity given, you got to take that opportunity and run with it. I don't care if you're a GA, you're player development, you just want to get in there and show you have time is not a problem, responsibility is not a problem. I am willing to get my hands dirty if it's cleaning the locker room, doing the laundry, whatever it is. They always joked around, Izzo would joke around when he was a GA. He had back at Jefferson Fieldhouse, he had to take the hoop and open up the hoop, whatever it is, it got him in the door to his next opportunity. I got lucky. I was sitting in my high school coach's office. He was a principal. He said, call Coach Izzo. I went up there, made the call, but I went up there, I had to wait, I remember, 7 hours to get to that. I'm a former player, just to get to that 10 minute to 15 minutes conversation. And then once you get in the room with a head coach, it doesn't matter if it's a high school level, AAU coach, grade school, just get there, volunteer, and then make it work. Your mouthpiece and your skills can get you, your foot in the door. I remember telling Jay Smith, I eat, live, and sleep basketball. I gave my whole story from Monday, Tuesday, Super Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm watching college basketball, NBA basketball, overseas basketball. And then I remember I got the job in that situation. I said, I am available. I can start tomorrow. I remember driving back down on 96. We had the flip phone back then in the day. Let's take it, and don't laugh, because you guys had that same flip phone. And he called me, and he offered me the job. I said, well, Jay, when do I start? He said, you said you can start tomorrow, so I expect you back in Mount Pleasant tomorrow. Got home, put some stuff in the car, back in Mount Pleasant, and my college career started. And you can't worry about pay. I always joke that. I remember I still had my first contract from Central Michigan. It was $28,000. And then the tax man hit it. I said, holy crap, I'm gonna live on that. Because I just got done playing, ball in Europe for 4 straight years. I had $28,000 in a couple months, and I wasn't even a great player. But then I never got into coaching about the money. It was about the opportunity in changing lives and giving back to the sport. So whatever you're in, just get there and knock down the door, because you never know where to lead to your next goal. I'm looking at my assistant, Colin Richards. I was at Northern Illinois. It's my 3rd year there. He was a freshman on campus. He came to me, I don't know if Toledo beat us and we lost to Toledo. I remember like yesterday, he said, Coach, and he was a young guy at the time, I just kind of like your swag, how you guys go, how you acted in the game. I want to coach for you one day. I said, great. You gotta graduate first. But what happened was, from his freshman year, it was his sophomore year, junior year, he stayed in contact, a text message, an email. And then all of a sudden, an opportunity came up. He graduated from Toledo, and he got the video job. It's that easy when you can maintain a relationship and you don't look short term, but you look long term.
That's very well said, and I appreciate that. We're going to wrap this up a little bit differently, because what I would like the 5 of you to do, because we have some really, really good top-notch officials here as well. And I want you to show them some love. I want you to talk to the officials out there. Let them know how much you appreciate them. Let them know, how much you, let them know how much you understand how difficult the job is that they do. I'm sure they don't forget that.
I'll go first, and this one seems easy. Because I actually do tell officials this all the time. There's 1,000 jobs that if I stopped coaching basketball, I would try to do. Referee, and this is one of them. It may be the most thankless job that you could ever have. Obviously, you get to be around great athletes, and you get to be on TV and all that stuff, but the amount of stuff that those dudes have to take. And oftentimes, it's because people don't know the rules. So they're critical of the officials. When the officials are calling the game where it's supposed to be called, but people just assume things. Now, there's some things that we wish we could change about the way the game's officiated, but that's not neither here nor there. I think those guys are supposed to show up every day and try to give their best effort. On nights that they don't, obviously they should hear about it, but I think they show up with a great attitude and obviously call the games as well as they can.
Coach Spiker, how many texts did you get this year?
How many technical fouls?
Yeah.
None that I can remember. Because they're usually out about experiences I don't remember. I had a technical in a minute, but I do think as I've gotten a little bit of gray hair inside, how you make them feel, how you talk to them matters. right? So if it's a bang call and you lose your mind, there's a chance they may have gotten it wrong, but they're not going to help you out if you're showing them up on the sideline. So I think our program is about gratitude, respect, compete. Appreciate the opportunity, respect the process to be great and be at your best. You said it earlier, if that's what we're about, then we better model it. And if I fail that, and I go off on the officials, and as the young fellows say, if I crash out, then you feel like you gaslight them, but they can crash out. And now we got an ugly looking scene in Philadelphia. So that reminded me to just kind of model what we're talking about. And if you have the right tone, maybe coming out of the timeout, you tell them what you're looking to do right here, and maybe things work a little better. So I think they're people too. Yeah. They're not just robots right there. Treated that way, it doesn't work out.
I don't allow my assistants to crash out, coach.